been called the godfather of Star Wars by many people. What was it about Star Wars that interested you in writing for the series?
Well, I'd always been a fan of Star Wars ever since 1977, second day it hit the theaters. Saw that movie 14, 15 times in the theater, loved it, very much like the other two of the original series. And so when the offer was made to me to do Star Wars, 3 Star Wars books, I pretty much jumped at the chance. So it wasn't that I suggested it or offered it or made a pitch. It was Lucasfilm and Bantam had already come to an agreement to do books, and Bantam gave Lucasfilm a short list of authors. Lucasfilm decided they liked my style best, and I got the out-of-the-blue invitation. So, but having been a fan a long time, of course, helped. I go, yeah, I can do Star Wars.
That's great. When you're writing, do you ever get writer's block, or do you or if you get writer's block, do you do anything specific that's like, oh, let me immerse myself in the Star Wars world, and that way I can think easier what to write?
Typically, writer's block for me is a matter that it's not going well, probably because I'm going a bit off where I should be, and I pause, go annoy the cats, or just lie down for a bit and try to think. And usually it's a matter that the last couple of pages, this is not quite where to go, back up and okay, go this direction instead. So with Star Wars, it's the same as anything else. I just put it aside for a few minutes to an hour, come back, and usually my subconscious has figured out what the problem is.
And you've got new, fresh ideas.
Fresh idea or fresh way of it. It's not a matter that I've run out of ideas, it's a matter of how do I get from here to there. And I thought I was going this way, maybe what I need to do is it's like that to get there instead. So it's a procedural thing rather than a what do I do now, because all of that is, the major ideas have been set out in the outline. So I already know the major points I'm hitting along the way to the ending.
So it's just everything else in between,
Yeah,
minor plot
right.
points.
It's like I'm going from Atlanta to Chicago. Okay, I know I'm aiming for Chicago, I'm going to land in Chicago, but what route do I take to get from Atlanta to Chicago? Well, I could take this route, and this is what I put in the outline, but as I get to, say, Cincinnati, oh, wait a minute, there's a little bit different route or something I've set up earlier. I know now what I can do with that, so I'm going to veer a little south instead, but I will still ultimately aim for Chicago.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, it's the procedural, how do I get from here to there, new little tweaks come along. But I've never had a writer's block in that, what can I write now? I have no idea. I can't even do an outline. I've gone dry.
It's because you're so great.
Well, thank you.
Okay. What inspirations did you have growing up that led you to your love of writing in general? And what books would you read, when you were younger? What were some of your favorite books that led you also to become a writer?
Well, I never planned to become a writer. I was reading, I started, as so many kids, science fiction kids did, I think in my generation, with Tom Swift Jr. I had a big collection of the Tom Swift Jr. books. Got into things like Heinlein and Donald Wollheim, a lot of the classics. I did some fantasy, mostly science fiction, Asimov, read a lot. And I was planning to go into physics.
Physics?
I was in
physics
graduate
into writing.
I was in graduate school in physics and planning, aiming for my doctorate. I watched a bad TV show and I said, I could write better than that. So I sat down over the next couple of weeks in my spare time and wrote a story.
So you never finished your degree in physics?
I got to my master's but never got to the doctorate. It's not, and it was not that I decided to quit. It's largely because my advisor died. And the project was never going to work. There was a problem with it from the start. He either didn't see it or was too stubborn to figure that out. And so they told me I could start a new project from scratch.
And you said no.
Well, I tried for a semester and I discovered I couldn't do a new project in physics and write. I just didn't have the mental energy to do it. I had time, but no, I can't write a story. I was having more fun writing. I sold 2 stories at that point and decided to just take a year off and try writing full-time. That was 1980, and it seems to be going okay so far.
Well, that's good, yeah. You've written a lot of books.
45 total.
Yeah, well, that's a lot,
Yeah.
especially for someone like me who doesn't really write at all. Well, what is your process? Like when you're going through writing a book, you do an outline and then you just write chapter by chapter, or do you do like individual chapter and then you do an outline of those?
Generally, I just do the overview, 5 to 10 pages of, again, Atlanta to Chicago, here's the routes, here are some of the stops I'm going to make along the way, here are the characters I'm taking with me on this trip. Here's how some of their interactions are going, some idea of the character arcs, where they start and where they end. And then I just start writing. I know some people who can write chapter 1, then skip to chapter 15 and go on. I have too many little tweaks, as I said earlier, of the route, and I might wind up in Cincinnati where my outline had me going through Nashville, and then I'm in trouble if I've already written the Nashville to Louisville section, or the Nashville to Evansville, say. So I usually write chronologically, just straight through the book. I do a cleanup read after I'm finished, polishing run.
And then more editing and everything.
Yeah, I polish it as I go. I'll read the one day's, when I start, I read the previous day's work, do a little polish edit, get myself momentum going to the next section. Typically at the very end, especially if it's a complex battle or a lot of things happening, I will write out scene by scene what is going to happen in the right order. I've just done that on my current book, and now I spent 2 days doing that. Now it's just a matter of, okay, this scene is next, write it out. Okay, this one is next after that, write it out. Because I've already got it all in my brain, this just organizes it. But aside from that, in fact, once I've done the outline and started the book, I almost never go back to the outline.
Well, that's great.
Writing the outline has gotten my brain working and sorting out exactly what happens. Also shows the editor what I've got in mind, so if there are any obvious problems, he or she can catch that early.
Do you ever go back and read, like if you do a series, do you read any of your previous books and you catch little things that you do and you're like, oh, I can tie that in to the current story that I'm doing?
In fact, when my Quadrail series, Night Train to Rigel, the first book of that series, was intended as a standalone, and Tor asked if I would continue it as a series. Okay, I can do that. Let's go back and think about what I did. Okay, I can do that and that. And there is a hook, and there is something else. And working out to the last book. Oh, okay. And this thing, which was really just kind of a throwaway, I can bring that back and make that link up. So we've had conversations in our family about the difference between, and specifically with Harry Potter, does she leave these things knowing she's going to tie into them, or are these a bunch of throwaway stuff that she later sees, I can use that? Both are valid ways of writing.
You'll never know unless
and you'll never know, and I do the same thing both ways. I set hooks deliberately, but sometimes I thought it was a throwaway line, and oh no, I can see how I can hook that over here later on. So we are masters of creative spackling and fiddling and making it look like it's all planned, when sometimes it's by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, and then it's good for the readers, because the readers are like, oh my God, they're brilliant. They've been planning this from book one.
We
and
really
like,
try
no.
to leave that, yeah, we try to leave that impression, but yeah, now you know the truth.
Yeah, and everybody watching this interview will also know the truth. And they'll be
Darn
like,
it.
everything is a lie.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Oh yeah, don't. He's not the Wizard of Oz.
No, no.
A lot of fans.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, these are not the droids you are looking for. I feel like I've said that a lot recently. Like, these are not the blanks you are looking for. A lot of fans have expressed outrage regarding your works in the expanded universe of Star Wars no longer being canon, like to the movies. So how do you feel about that issue, and what would you like to say to your readers who enjoyed and continue to enjoy reading your future works?
Well, first thing is that J.J. Abrams is not going to come to your house and take your books. So whatever they do with the new movies, we still have the expanded universe books, and if they get contradicted or destroyed by something the movies do. We still have had the enjoyment, and frankly, in a universe the size of the Star Wars universe, things will get garbled. I mean, maybe what we thought was real was just a garbled memory, and so even if the movies say, you know, this alien has green skin, and everybody in the book said they had, you know, red skin, well, maybe that was a translation error someplace along the line, or somebody misreported it, or somebody lied through their teeth to some gullible reporter or blogger who picked up on it. And so, you know, it's just not really contradicted. As I said, we're masters of spackle. I would just kind of chill at this point. They couldn't take everything in the expanded universe and make it work with what, they'd be very limited to what they could do in the movies. And I can understand why they did that.
Yeah, like a lot of
see.
movies
Yeah.
that like deviate slightly
Yeah.
from the books.
And we'll just, if they don't take anything from, say, the Thrawn trilogy, we might as well say that really did happen, unless they contradict it in some way. Sure, it happened a long time ago, they don't reference it, that's not a problem. So I would say hold judgment until we see what they do. And I'm hoping to get some really good movies out of this. I think Disney was the right home for Lucasfilm.
Oh, I think so too.
They've proven that they can buy Pixar and Marvel and not screw them up. I think they will be as good with Star Wars and all of Lucasfilm. At least I certainly hope so.
Anything else you'd like to say to the listeners? Anything you have big planning that you can tell us
I've
about?
got the new Honorverse book that I'm doing with David Weber, Manticore Ascendant, set in his Honor Harrington universe, but 400 years earlier than that, so kind of a new series entirely. I have a techno thriller that wrote some years ago. We're doing a Kickstarter for that. There'll be a link, you just go to Kickstarter if you want to find this. The title is Cloak. The quick summary is a tactical nuclear weapon has been stolen from an Indian research facility. Meanwhile, in California, the 3 scientists who have just invented the world's first actual cloak of invisibility have been murdered, and their cloaks have been stolen, and nobody knows those 2 incidents are related.
I have to read that.
And also the prologue and first 2 chapters are available on the Kickstarter page to read, to give you a sense of what's going on. So I'm hoping that'll finally see the light of day.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
No problem,
and it was
thanks.
really nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well.